All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren, and I am a student recruiter advisor with UBC. So I'm based at the Okanagan campus, but I work with both the Vancouver Campus engineering program as well as the Okanagan campus program. So I'm here to walk through some information about the admissions process for UBC engineering, as well as some general application pieces of information. I know there were some questions coming through earlier about things like the personal profile and requirements and things like that. So we will be going through all of that information today. So I am also joined today by Ruth Kwok, the Associate Director of Engineering Admissions and Enrollment at the UBC Vancouver Campus. And she's here to help me answer some of your questions and support me with today's session. So you've got great people here to be able to answer any questions that might be popping up for you today. So before I begin, I would like to start today's session by acknowledging that I am an uninvited guest on the unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan Nation. So UBC's Okanagan campus is also located on the unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan Nation, and UBC's Vancouver campus is located on the unceded ancestral lands of the Musqueam peoples. So these lands have always been a place of learning for First Nations peoples who for millennia have passed on their culture, history, traditions, and language to the next generation using these lands as their home and community. So I encourage anyone attending today's session to reflect on their own knowledge and allyship journey with relation to Indigenous peoples of Canada, and specifically your host nation or nations. All right, so we're going to go ahead and make the most of our time together. I imagine there are quite a few questions, and hopefully I will address a lot of the types of questions that you might have through today's presentation, but we want to make sure that we address anything and everything that comes up today. So I'll be going at quite a quick pace, but rest assured that even if we don't get to your question today, there are great ways to be able to reach out to myself to be able to ask those questions after today. So you heard in the previous session, if you were there, a lot more about sort of why engineering as a profession. Now I'm going to sort of just go really quickly through the offerings that we have at both campuses for UBC's engineering programs. So if you have any additional questions about these, again, reach out to me at any point in time. Definitely happy to go into more detail about these options. So we offer two campuses. We have the Vancouver campus and the Okanagan campus, with 14 programs, and you can see endless opportunities as well. And so we're going to talk through the admissions requirements, application details, and important dates and deadlines as well. So one thing to note is that, in case I actually haven't specified this just yet, that the Okanagan campus for the UBC campus is located in the city of Kelowna. So if anyone's not quite as familiar with the location of where Kelowna is, it's about a 4-hour drive or about a 1-hour flight from Vancouver in the Okanagan region. So I definitely encourage you to Google Kelowna and see how stunningly beautiful it is. There's so much to do in terms of outdoor activities. It's got a lot of sunshine here. We have a great climate. There are great places to eat. There's vineyards, orchards, all sorts of great stuff, lakes everywhere. So definitely encourage you to check out some Google images at least, as well as the UBC website to learn more about this campus community. Now, both campuses do offer the same caliber of engineering program, but offer a different sort of community size as well as a different type of learning environment. And there are different specializations available at each of the two campuses as well. So those will be the things to sort of think about in terms of which campus could be the right fit for you. But at the end of the day, you're still ending up with a Bachelor of Applied Science from UBC, regardless of which campus you decide to choose. And you also, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to some of the more specific admissions information, but you can actually put down one campus as your first choice and the other campus as your second choice on your application. So if you're open to both, that's great. That's a way that you can maximize your opportunity to study engineering at UBC. So today we're going to be going through information that is geared towards high school applicants. So if you are a transfer student joining us today, we will be having a transfer student information session later this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. So you can make sure to tune in for that. And you can also reach out to me directly as well if you do have any questions or individual, lots of times with transfer situations, there's a lot of individual situations and courses and things to be discussed. So feel free to reach out to me as well. All right, so we're going to start with talking a little bit more about the Okanagan Campus Engineering Program. So you heard me mention before that there are different specializations available at each of the two campuses. So at the Okanagan campus, you can see that these are the 4 specializations that are available. So that's civil, electrical, mechanical, and manufacturing. So students will start in their foundational year, and before they will choose their engineering specialization at the end of the first year. So at the Okanagan campus, the specialization selection process is not competitive. It is a declaration process. So as long as you're meeting all of the sort of general, you're passing your classes and you're academically doing okay and not changing your mind about wanting to maybe pursue something else, you would be able to declare any of these 4 specializations that you like. So there's no competitive aspect to that. So that's a key difference to keep in mind. You'll hear me talk about the Vancouver process in just a few minutes, but that is something that is specific to the Okanagan campus experience, is that it is just a declaration process. So there are no caps, there are no quotas or anything like that on each of these specializations. And the School of Engineering also currently offers 3 options, which are biomedical, mechatronics, and resilient infrastructure management. There are also the choice of 2 minors, and those are management and also a minor in computer science. So the Vancouver campus has 14 different specializations that you can choose from. Now, if you're interested in one of the 4 that was also mentioned at the Okanagan campus, all 4 that are offered there are also offered at the Vancouver campus. The Vancouver campus has 10 additional options to choose from. So at the Vancouver campus, you'll complete a 1-year foundational year to cover things like basic chemistry, math, physics, before completing the competitive 2nd-year placement or specialization selection process to begin your engineering discipline, your specialization in the 2nd year. So the great news is that you have your first year to explore a lot of different things, meet with a lot of different people, talk to current students, meet with faculty, take a first-year course called APSC EPSI 100 that will introduce you to all of these different programs and give you a good idea about what might be the best fit for you when it does come time for you to choose which options you'd like to be considered for. So there are also 5 minors available at the Vancouver campus. They include commerce, entrepreneurship, arts, science, and honors math. So even though we do have these 2 campuses to choose from, which are both great, and again, you're ending up with a Bachelor of Applied Science from either campus, we do recommend that you intend to start at the campus that you would like to finish your degree at. So if you are considering a specialization that is not offered at the Okanagan campus, but it is offered at the Vancouver campus, you would want to intend to start at the Vancouver campus. That is because it is potentially possible there is an application process. It is possible to apply to change campuses if that's something that you're interested in, but it is a highly competitive process. There are things to keep in mind that you're going to need to meet with your advisors about. And that's why we do recommend that you start at the campus that you intend to finish at, because there are no guarantees about being able to make a transfer to the other campus. All right, so jumping into admissions information, and from the questions I was seeing before we began, I think this is probably a highly anticipated part of my session today. And so we'll go ahead and jump right in. So there are multiple ways to gain admission to UBC and to UBC's engineering program. So you can apply directly to UBC from high school, as you can see there. And it sounds like from some of the questions that were coming through that many of you are currently in high school. And so you're getting all of this information about how to apply for what is called direct entry, which is great. If you are a transfer applicant, again, there's that information session happening later on today. There are transfer routes to consider. Now, UBC, both campuses at UBC have different university transfer partnerships. So there are some that are called bridging programs. There are some that are called transfer programs. And they are with their specific partnerships with institutions that have very particular programs partnered with UBC that offer a guaranteed future transfer to UBC's engineering program. If you adhere to the criteria, things like the timeline you complete your studies in, that you've kept up a certain GPA, that offers a great option for students, a great, and potentially maybe a great second option, third option, backup option, however you want to consider it. But definitely recommend checking out, even as a high school applicant, that you check out what is available at each of our campuses for those transfer routes with those partnerships, because they can be a great way to join us at UBC in the future. Now, it is also possible to apply from a non-partner institution, and you would apply and basically be competing against other transfer applicants to gain admission to UBC's engineering program in the future. There are also options for Indigenous students as well. So we have the Aboriginal admission policy. There's also the Aboriginal transfer partnership with Langara College. And if you have any more questions about those, definitely feel free to reach out to me, or I'll put you in touch with one of my colleagues on our Indigenous recruitment team, who are very warm and welcoming faces to be able to share more information about all of the possibilities for you. Vantage College is also a possibility for international students who do not meet the English language requirements for admission. So again, as I continue on through this application information, it's going to be specific to applicants who are applying directly from high school and directly from high school in Canada. So for the application deadlines, these are important dates to remember. So if you haven't put these into your calendar just yet and you're a grade 12 student hoping to apply, make sure that you write these down so that you definitely know that these are the last days to be considered for each of these rounds of admission. So the first round of admission deadline is the 1st of December. And the final deadline, as you can see there, for the regular round offer of admission is the 15th of January. Now, we do encourage applicants to apply by the 1st of December. This is because you can be considered for admission a little bit earlier on in the whole process, potentially get an offer of admission a little bit earlier if you are successfully admitted as a first round offer applicant. It also means that you're going to be able to be considered for high school entrance scholarships to UBC. So things like the Presidential Scholars Award, Centennial Scholars Entrance Award, Beyond Tomorrow Scholars Program. I'll talk more about those specifically in a few moments, but you would be able to be considered for those if you apply for admission to UBC by the 1st of December. Now, you can also apply by the 15th of January. That is the final deadline. So make sure that if you aren't applying by the 1st of December, that you definitely apply by the 15th of January, because if you try and apply after that, you're going to be out of luck. That is the final deadline to apply. So in terms of requirements, you are going to need to meet both what are called general requirements and then also degree-specific requirements. Now, before I leave today, I'll share this again in the chat at some point, but I shared it earlier. If you were here earlier, I did share it through a little bit earlier. On our website, all of this information about specific requirements, so for the next couple of slides, is actually available through this handy section of you.ubc.ca. Oh, sorry, the link is just there at the bottom. You just need to make sure that you pick that you are a Canadian high school applicant. It will bring you to this page where you can actually select the campus that you're hoping to apply to, and then you would pick the Bachelor of Applied Science from the other drop-down menu, and it will populate all of the grade 11 and grade 12 requirements for whichever degree program you want to consider, including engineering. So you are going to need to graduate from high school. You are also encouraged to take at least 6 grade 12 courses. That's recommended. You also need to make sure, now this language that you're seeing in these slides today is BC specific. So if you're not applying from the province of BC, you're going to want to use that section of the website and the drop-down menu that I mentioned, because you can pick your province and it will put it into the terms that are used in the curricula from your province. Or if you're an IB student, there's an IB section. So make sure to check that out to make sure that you're getting the correct terminology for your curricula you're applying from. But you can see here that you're going to need to have English 12, Pre-Calculus 12, Chemistry 12, and Physics 12. And this is specifically addressing the Okanagan requirements right now, but I'll also be going through the Vancouver requirements too. Now you can see there are also similar but different requirements at the two campuses. Now this is consistent in case you're looking at any other degree program to apply to across our two campuses. You do need to make sure that you check the admissions requirement for each campus, even if it's the same degree, because the admissions requirements are not necessarily the same for each of the two campuses. So you do want to make sure that you're looking at that drop-down menu to double check that you're informed about all of the similarities, but also the differences between the two campus requirements. So for Vancouver, again, you're going to need to make sure you graduate from high school. We recommend taking 6 grade 12 courses. And you're going to need to have at least a minimum of 70% in grade 11 or grade 12 English or their equivalent. So for degree-specific requirements, you can see the list there. This is also on our website in case you're looking to look this up later as a reference. Or if you're joining us from younger than grade 12 and you want to check what the requirements are right now, so you're planning in advance, or maybe you're I saw some people saying they were in grade 9 and grade 10 joining today. So know that this section of the website is where you can come back to year after year to make sure that you're getting up-to-date information about what those requirements are. So English 11, language at the grade 11 level, that's not an introductory course, pre-calculus 11, English 12, pre-calculus 12, and then you can see chemistry 12 and physics 12. So you'll notice that there is a requirement for students at the Vancouver campus to have that language 11 at the grade 11 level. Many students who are from BC and have spoken to their counselors might be aware of this already, but in case you're not, that's definitely something to keep in mind. And again, it cannot be an introductory course. If you have any questions about your situation, just hold on to those questions and I'll make sure you've got my contact email to be able to reach out and ask questions about your specific situation after today. All right, so there are also some other things that we're looking for in the application. So there is a section of our website where you can actually refer back to this, just in case you do want to refresh your memory before you apply, or like I said, if you're joining from before grade 12, you might just want to refresh your memory in a year or two from now. It is called the What We Look For. So it's under after you apply, there's a tab called After You Apply, then you go over to What We Look For. There's a great video that sums up the whole application process. And then there's some more information about how your academics are evaluated, including this type of information here that you see here. So we're looking for things like, do you meet the requirements to be eligible for the degree that you're applying for? So you saw all those requirements for grade 11 and grade 12 on the last couple of slides. We're going to be checking, did you take those courses and are you actually eligible for this degree? Then we're going to be looking at, did you challenge yourself academically? What other subjects did you take? Do we think that they're relevant to your degree program? Are they not relevant, not as relevant, and we're not going to pay quite as much attention to them? That's also okay to do. We encourage students to explore different subject areas, but we are going to pay attention to ones that we feel like are going to equip you with successful skills and knowledge for this degree program at UBC. And again, if you're applying from outside of the province of BC, you're going to want to refer back to that website to check how your curricula's requirements are phrased and make sure you're getting the right terminology there. So in terms of what makes up a complete application with UBC, there are two parts. There's the personal profile and then there is the academic profile. So we've kind of already talked about the academic profile side of things. This is your grade 11 and your grade 12 academic courses. There were some questions before I jumped into this session about whether we look at things like grade 9 and grade 10 courses for applicants who are applying in Canada. I seem to be a bit tongue-tied this morning. For applicants who are applying from in Canada, we are only looking at your grade 11 and grade 12 courses. And that is why when you look at those requirements on the website, you're going to see that it only populates grade 11 and grade 12 requirements because that's what we're looking at in your evaluation. We're also looking at the personal profile. So this is a section of our application where you are given, and all of the questions and sort of context of the personal profile is also on our website, you.ubc.ca, in case you want to have a look. But essentially, this is a section of the application where in admissions, we are getting to know you. So the real person, the unique person who is part of this application is what we're hoping to learn about in that personal profile. So the academic profile, that's where we learn about your academics, your strengths, interests that you're showing, are you eligible for this degree? But the personal profile is the part where you actually get to decide what else it is about you that you'd like us to know. And so one way that I like to describe it is you don't go around introducing yourself by your GPA, right? Or your IB score. You aren't like, hi, I'm 3 point something, or I'm IB number 35. You are a person with a name and unique interests and all of these wonderful things that make you who you are. And this is the section of the application where we're really wanting to get to know who that person is that's part of this application. Help us learn different things than what we saw in your academic section, because this is the fun part where we get to know the real person. So we are actually hosting, just in case anyone is interested, it sounded like there were quite a few personal profile questions before I jumped in. Myself and my colleagues in our recruitment team are actually hosting a series of application workshops throughout the fall. And I think there are 3 more dates for the month of November. There's one in December. And I think that's it for the year. So definitely check out our events page and you can actually register for one of those workshops. And we actually go through the entire sort of application process with specific focus on the personal profile. We do some exercises. We help give you some tips and advice. and things to think about when you're crafting your own personal profile. So if you have any questions, or even if you're, a grade 9, 10, 11 student, you're welcome to register for one of those sessions as well and get a little bit more information about how you can start thinking about crafting your responses to the series of prompts that you'll be responding to as you fill out your personal profile. So together, these two things are put together and used in a holistic review process. So the application process uses both of these parts, and it is a competitive process where you're also reviewed comparatively against the overall applicant pool. So since the applicant pool changes from year to year, there are no minimum scores beyond what you saw with like the 70% in English in grade 11 or in grade 12. There's no minimum scores beyond what you see there. And that's because we have so much variation across each year's applicant pool, the campus, the program, the individual degree program. So we don't have those specific minimums, but of course, the stronger you score in a particular area, the stronger the message is to admissions about your ability to be successful in that particular subject area, or maybe potentially the degree that you're applying to. So still continue to do your best, but the personal profile is a very important part of your application as well. So make sure that you don't forget that that's also a very important part of what we're looking at too. All right, so you heard me mention before that one of the main reasons that we encourage applicants to apply for admission by the 1st of December is that you can be considered for scholarships, which is always a great thing, right? There are many merit-based awards that you'll have automatic consideration for as long as you've applied by the 1st of December. Now, one thing I will note that is different this year, so if you are a grade 12 student who maybe attended some information sessions in the past, when you apply to UBC this year, and I'll walk you through some more specific like screenshots in the next few slides, but we're on a different application portal this year called Education Planner BC. And one key difference in relation to being considered for scholarships is that previously it was all automatic. As long as you submitted the admissions application by the 1st of December, you were automatically considered. This year, there's just a box you need to tick that's at the end of the application, and it says something like, I would like to be considered for the Presidential Scholars Award scholarships. And you just need to tick the box to essentially opt in and say, yes, I would like to be considered for a scholarship. You don't have to provide other information, but just make sure that you are aware. You need to tick the box. It should be very obvious as you're going through this process, but you do need to tick the box to be considered for the merit scholarships. So be aware of that this year. So we do have the Presidential Scholars Awards, which are up to a value of $80,000. Some are one-time scholarships, some are renewable up to all 4 years of your studies. There's a lot of flexibility in terms of how we award those scholarships. You can see there are also some scholarships specific to like the Okanagan Campus is the next one down there. There are engineering specific scholarships. So Engineering Scholarship for Innovation, which is up to $20,000 for the Vancouver Campus. And then there are the Women in Engineering Awards up to $10,000 at the Vancouver Campus as well. So by applying by the 1st of December, you could be being considered for all of these awards, which is great, right? Who doesn't want to have some extra money to be able to fund their studies and invest in their future and their education? So we do encourage you to try and apply by that 1st of December deadline. There are other types of scholarships here that you can see on the right-hand side. So the financial need-based scholarships. So one difference between these scholarships and the merit-based scholarships is that you are going to need to submit an additional application for these. So you also need to apply for admission by the 1st of December, but then you're also going to need to submit the Centennial Scholars Entrance Award application by the 1st of December too. So if you're hoping to be considered for a financial need-based scholarship, which I encourage you to do, you're just going to need to be aware that there is that second application that's also due by the 1st. So Centennial Scholars Entrance Awards are also valued up to $80,000. Again, some are one-time, some are renewable across your 4 years of study. And we have you submit an additional application because it is a financial need-based scholarship and everyone's financial need looks a bit different. So we're just hoping to get a bit more information from you to make sure that we're assessing what your financial need is accurately. Within this application, you can also apply for the Beyond Tomorrow Scholars Award. Now, this is a newer scholarship and scholars program that is specifically for students who self-identify as Black Canadian. And it's an incredible program with all of these great wraparound supports throughout your 4 years of studies. You're going to be able to access all types of different like professional development, personal development, and just a really strong sense of community with other fantastic scholars within the UBC community. So if you are hoping to be considered for that scholarship, there will be an opportunity for you to self-identify as Black Canadian within the application process. In addition to that, if you are a student who self-identifies as an Indigenous student, we would encourage you to also self-identify as Indigenous on your application so that we can ensure that you are considered for the many scholarships that we have that are specific for Indigenous students. All right, now, are you ready to apply? So if you're in grade 12, you might already have been dabbling a little bit in some of the information that I am about to share with you. If you're in grade 11 or even grade 12 and you've just been busy with school and you haven't jumped into this, not to worry, I'm still gonna give a lot of great information to help you know what to expect from this application process. So this year, I mentioned we're on a different sort of application system called Education Planner BC. I have a nice screenshot coming up of that website in just a moment, but you can access it in two different ways. So you can access it straight from our website, you.ubc.ca. And you'll see, just like this picture shows, literally this is a screenshot, a recent screenshot. You click on Apply to UBC, and it's actually going to redirect you to the Education Planner BC website. This is also the website that I keep referring to, just for extra context here. This is the one I keep referring back to for things like finding out your admissions information. So you can see that tab that says Applying to UBC. That's where you would be able to find that drop-down menu I was talking about. Financial planning, that's where you'll find information and the application to apply for things like scholarships, like the Centennial Scholars Entrance Award. That application information is accessible there. If you want to actually register for one of our application workshops, you would click on the Tours, Events, and Info Sessions tab. So this is your one-stop shop for anything and everything for applying to UBC. So in case you're wondering if you've landed in the right spot with all the things I'm referring to, this is also that same section of the website. Now, as part of this application, you're going to be sharing a lot of great information about yourself. You heard me talk about the academic history and academic profile, as well as your personal profile. So all of that is going to be shared as part of this online application. So you're going to want to start your application early. Definitely don't leave it until sort of 5 minutes before midnight on the last day of November, before the 1st, or even the 14th of January. You're going to want to make sure that you start well in advance, get yourself familiar, set up your account, make sure that you're ready to go so that you're not feeling rushed at any point during this process. So you're going to want to also make sure that you know to check in on your application regularly, make sure that you're keeping informed of any updates from UBC, because this is how we're going to be able to keep in touch with you about your application. Now, once you've landed on the website for Education Planner BC, you're going to land here. And just for a little bit of context, the Education Planner BC is actually a centralized application system for a lot of different colleges and universities all across the province of BC. So for you as an applicant, it actually makes things a lot easier. You will be able to create one account. You're going to type in certain information about yourself, things like your name, your address, your name of your school, that sort of thing. You're only going to have to type that in once, and then you can apply to different institutions all in this one place and keep track of everything in one place. So it actually makes things a lot easier for you as an applicant, but it's just good to know that that is the process that you're going to be going through this year. So this is also where you're going to do things like complete your applicant profile, as you can see here. And you're going to be prompted. I love this Education Planner BC website. I'm a very visual person, so you'll find that as you go through this process on their website, it's very visual, great drop downs. It's even pretty mobile friendly. I was part of the behind the scenes testing team, and there's all sorts of great features of applying through Education Planner BC. So you'll know you're in the right spot when you start seeing this type of information. If at any point you're confused about the process or making sure, you just want to double check that you're on the right track, you can of course reach out to myself, but the Education Planner BC website also has a long list of tutorials that are video tutorials, so you can play and pause and make sure you're kind of following along the right process if you're at all unsure if you're doing the process correctly. So there are going to be these 3 sections that you'll fill out as you go through this: personal information, contact information, and then the academic history information as well. Then you're going to, among other things, you're going to be prompted for things like putting in your first choice, and your second choice degree programs at UBC. Now, a couple things I want to clarify about this part of the process. So you are going to be given the option for 2 choices on your application. You are only applying to the degree itself. So that's the Bachelor of Applied Science for Engineering, or if you're considering other degrees, it'd be the Bachelor, it's basically the Bachelor of Arts, the Bachelor of Science, whatever it might be. So you're going to apply for 2 degrees and then the relevant campus. So if you're applying to both of our engineering programs, you could pick one, as you can see in this slide here, one for the Okanagan campus, that's listed as the first choice here, and then maybe the Vancouver campus as your second choice. So you can definitely do that, but if you only wanted to apply to, say, the Okanagan campus for engineering as your first choice, and then you want to do like the Bachelor of Science at Okanagan as your second choice, you can do that. You can mix and match across the 2 campuses, but you're just applying to the degree itself. So maybe you've got your heart set on electrical engineering, but again, that process isn't happening until the end of your first year. So at this point in time, you're just applying to the degree, just that Bachelor of Applied Science. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that the ranking of these 2 choices does matter. You really want to make sure that you're picking a first choice program as just that. It is truly your first choice, because we're only going to consider you for your first choice program first, bit of a tongue twister, and then your second choice program would only be considered if you were unsuccessful with your first choice. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. You want to make sure that you're very confident that the first choice program really truly is the one you want to be considered for, because you will not be considered for both unless you're unsuccessful with the first. You'll also be prompted to fill out your personal profile as you go throughout this process. So some students have been asking me, because as you navigate the application online, it's not instantly clear that you need to fill out, like that there's a place to fill out the personal profile before you submit it. I promise you actually can't go through the application process without submitting the personal profile. So you won't be able to go through it without doing it, not to worry, even if you don't see it as one of the prompts that you can kind of click through one of the visual icons or tabs or things. It will be there and you can't submit it without it. And if you do have any other questions, of course, reach out to myself and I'd be more than happy to assist you at any point along the way. But again, sign up for one of those application workshops. You'll be able to get some great tips on how to prepare your personal profile. We do recommend that you type it in advance and then you copy and paste it into your application so that things like typos and spelling errors and things like that, you've had a chance to check through those instead of typing it in kind of live in the document at that time. All right, and a general overview of when you can expect different types of information along the way. So you can see 1st of December is that first round offer of admission deadline. The second thing there, the 15th of January is the final deadline to apply for the regular round offer of admission. And in case I did not mention it before, if you're unsuccessful with a first round offer of admission, do not worry. The majority of applicants, that actually is the case. Only a small percentage of students actually receive a first round offer of admission. All that happens is you're automatically reconsidered in the regular round as well. So you don't have to reapply, you don't have to do anything different. The automatic default process is you just get reconsidered in that regular round of admission. You'll see that academic information is going to be requested by UBC around February to March. Now, if you're a BC student, we actually just do this via your PEN number. So you're going to put your PEN number into your application. You need to log into your ministry account to say that you consent to UBC having your academic information, and then UBC just automatically kind of goes in there and gets your academic information. So you actually don't have to submit anything manually if you're a BC high school student, which is nice, one less thing to worry about. If you're an IB applicant, you are going to have your IB coordinator will be contacted by UBC. They will provide us with your predicted grades, and then we would receive your final grades via the IB organization directly once they are available. If you're from another province, you'll see that our website actually has all of the different ways in which we ask for your documentation. On that you.ubc.ca, there's a section called Submit Your Documents. You can put in your high school applicant, and then it will show the different processes for different applicants from different provinces and territories. May 1st is going to be the deadline to accept admissions offers, as well as the housing application deadline. Now that is applicable consistently for the Vancouver campus. If you are applying to the Okanagan campus, sometimes you might be given the option to accept your offer of admission by the 1st of June. But that will be very clearly stated on your admissions letter, so there should be no ambiguity about what the expectation is for you there. that is going to be a very clear part, and it will even show it in your online system, like you need to respond by this date sort of thing. In June and July, that's when you're going to register for your standard timetable. So that is kind of the set of courses that you are going to need to take across your first year in your program at engineering, and that's consistent across both campuses. Each one has a standard timetable. So registering for courses as an engineering student, especially in your first year, is so easy. You literally just go in, you pick your standard timetable, and off you go. You don't actually have to kind of piece together all the different pieces of different courses and where they're located and what time they're at and which days of the week. You just get to go in and click a button and you're good to go. So that's definitely a nice part of the course registration process for sure. And then in September, you would come and join us, and you can attend things like Imagine UBC and Create, which are great events to kind of kick off the start of the academic year. A great way for you to get to kind of celebrate your engineering cohort and get to know your colleagues a little, your fellow students and your colleagues a little bit better, as well as your faculty. So this is a great sort of timeline to anticipate, but also if you find that you have any questions along the way, another reminder, you can reach out anytime. So this was a lot of information in a very short amount of time, and we are going to have some Q&A time. And like I keep saying, I will make sure that you've got a contact email address for me as well, so that if you do want to walk through anything for your situation, or for any reason we don't get to your question today, that you have a chance to make sure you've got the information that you need to have your questions answered. Now, there are other fantastic things happening today. There's so much happening during this awesome event, so lots of things to help you engage with UBC's engineering community a lot better. Booths are happening at 12:30 today. You can see academic services from each of the two campuses are going to be available. UBC Vantage 1 for applied science is going to be available, and program entry for all engineering programs from both campuses as well. Now, as an engineering student, you are supported so well with all sorts of different academic services and advising, fantastic faculty. So this is a great opportunity for you to get to meet them and really get a sense of the strength of the community and the sense of support that is accessible within the engineering experience at UBC. All right, so also another session coming up at 11:30. Oh, and I've gone over time. Sorry about that. Gone over time sorry, my clock disappeared with the settings of the presentation. We have the experiential learning in UBC engineering. So if you need to take off, I'm going to make sure that you've got our recruitment.ok email address to be able to reach out in case you want to take off and join that session, but still have your questions answered.
Thanks so much, Lauren. Yeah, so that session will be happening right here in the stage. You actually don't have to go anywhere, but we will push it back just a few minutes so we can answer a couple of questions. But as Lauren just showed, that there are lots of booths available at 12:30. So that's just about in an hour at the academic services booth. You can also ask any questions you have about second year placement and things like that. So I know there's a lot of questions that have come in about kind of that process, and any of those sorts of questions that you have, you can talk to the academic services booths starting at 12:30, as well as all of the programs that we offer across both campuses. So Lauren, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I'm going to go with our most popular questions that were asked. And then if you do have questions, I'll continue to reply to those over the next little bit, so that you can get those questions answered. So just check back on your question, and we'll have a reply there to help answer those. So one question that I'm going to answer really quickly is the most popular one that says, I know that there's a general first year, but how competitive is it to get into your preferred discipline after the first year? So in your first year, you're actually going to be given so much information about this. As long as you are successfully completing your first year, you will be moving into the second year program, but it's which of those programs you'll go into will depend on your first year average. Now, that's only competitive for the Vancouver campus, as Lauren had mentioned earlier. So if you're at the Okanagan campus, that is guaranteed placement into one of those 4 programs. At the Vancouver campus, it is competitive. And what I would highly recommend doing is talking to those different programs in the booth today. They will share kind of some of those requirements as well. And you will learn a lot more about that in first year. You can also pop into the Engineering Academic Services booth to ask some more questions about that as well. Now, Lauren, the next most popular question is, are AP courses taken in high school weighted differently for admissions offers?
Great question. So there is no preferred type of curricula from an admissions point of view. So we look at, we know different schools offer different curricula. Some schools offer things like AP, some schools might offer IB, some schools might not offer those. So we don't want to disadvantage anyone by expecting them to participate in something that isn't actually accessible to them. Now, if you have taken AP courses or IB courses, we do recognize that the rigor of those is quite a lot. And so there are ways for you to actually be able to obtain first-year credit opportunities through UBC. And I don't have the ability to send links right now. Sorry, I'm used to Zoom and being able to just send things through. There is a first-year credit section on the you.ubc.ca website, and you can actually go through. It has the whole list of all the AP courses, all the IB courses that are eligible for first-year credit. And even within the standard timetable, you might be able, depending on the course that you've taken in AP or IB, possibly it would be able to satisfy the humanities credit in your first year program. But there is more information about which ones are eligible and the criteria associated with eligibility for first year credit in that section of you.ubc.ca. So it is recognized in that capacity. We will see that you have challenged yourself academically, but there's no expectation that you've taken AP or IB over your provincial curricula. So hopefully that makes sense.
Perfect. And the next question I'm going to ask, does UBC consider grades for retaken high school courses in terms of admission, or do they only look at the first time grade?
So I'll have to explain the answer a little bit. So yes and no, I guess, is kind of the way to sum it up. So yes, we do look at courses that have been retaken. So essentially, the way it works is that if you retake a course, that's absolutely fine. We will take the higher grade of what is available at the time of the evaluation. So the time of the evaluation is the really tricky part to anticipate, because you don't know, and I don't even know exactly when your courses are going, when your application is going to be evaluated for admission. So if the higher grade is available, great, we would use that. And there's no like negative context to seeing that someone's retaken a course or anything like that. We just take the higher of the two. But if it's not available at the time, we would use the grade that is available. So I can walk you through a little bit more. Do reach out to me if you are planning to retake a course, and I can kind of give you some more specifics in terms of where you're at in your studies. Are you grade 11, grade 12? What's accessible at your school, that sort of thing. But in general, it just depends, when it's available.
Perfect. I think that's going to be it for questions right now. A lot of the other questions are very specific. So I'll be on here answering questions to help answer those kind of more specific ones. But if you all stick around, we are going to leave the screen for a second, and we will be back on shortly to talk more about those experiences available to you in UBC engineering. So thank you so much for your help today, Lauren. Ruth, thank you for being there in case we had any questions we couldn't answer. I appreciate you both being here and your help today. Thank you.
For sure. Thanks for having us.